This conference will now be recorded.
Oops. They did say wait for the record. Okay to go? Good afternoon, good evening. My name's Alex Pugh.
Good to go, Alex.
Okay, thank you. I'm the project director for Queens and Rail on the Tunnel Stations and Development Project for Crosstalk Rail, which I'll be talking about this evening. Firstly, I'd like to start with acknowledgement and some thanks. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today and pay my respect to elders past, present, and to emerging community leaders. I also acknowledge the important role of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people within the Queens Rail and the communities we serve. Firstly, I'd like to thank the PWI for the opportunity to talk about this milestone project in Queensland. And finally, I'd like to thank Queens Rail and the Cross River Rail Delivery Authority for their support in putting together this presentation. So hopefully today what I'll go through quickly, not too quickly, why we're building Cross Rail in the first place, some key facts about the project, when the project started, when's there a planned finish date for the tunnel, the construction progress, there's a fair bit of detail on construction progress. It's been a very busy 2 years. A little bit about European train control systems. Talk then about the new goalpost stations, which is an extension onto the project, precinct delivery, and then finally I'll come back to mop it up at some thoughts about 2032 Olympics and how the Cross Rail project supports that. So just quickly, the Cross Rail is primarily a second rail line across the Brisbane River. In our case, under the Brisbane River. So on the graphic in front of you, the maroon lines are the existing rail lines at Queens and Rail. The blue line is where the Cross River Rail is going to run or around. There is a metro system that's being currently constructed, which is the green line. It runs from Dutton Park right through, sort of follows the busways. And then the orange line is the busways existing in South East Queensland. There's some key location places on there: Dutton Park, Bogo Road, Wollongabba, Albus Street, Uranus Street, and Exhibition Station. I'll talk a little bit more about those later. So Crosstalk Rail is basically split into 3 major packages of work. The one I work on at the moment is Tunnel Stations and Development. So that's the construction of the major tunnel from the southern portal down here between Bogo Road and Dutton Park, right through to the northern portal, which is between the Exhibition Station and Roma Street. Then there's the Rail Integration and Systems team, which is an alliance arrangement, and they're doing a lot of the brownfield works north of the tunnel portal and south of the southern tunnel portal, and they're also responsible for the integration of all the systems into what is Queens and Rail's ongoing train operations. And then finally, ETCS will be no surprise to those of you in Europe. So it's new to Queensland, which is the European Train Control System. So when it's finished, sorry, I jumped ahead. So when it's finished, Crosstalk Rail would deliver just over 10 kilometres of new rail line, just under 6 kilometres of twin tunnels underneath the Brisbane River and CBD. That's the central business district, I'll keep on saying that. 4 new underground stations, 8 upgraded stations, 3 new goalpost stations, and 1 new world-class signalling system. So firstly, why are we building it? So the South East Queensland population will grow by 2 million over the next 25 years, and that's COVID notwithstanding. And put that in context, so Australia's population is around about 25 million for all of Australia, and generally Queensland's population is in the 4 to 5 million. So it's a huge growth in South East Queensland. Most of this growth is expected outside the Brisbane area, so not in the inner city, but in the outside suburbs. The problem with that is 45% of the job growth in the future will be in central Brisbane. So clearly a problem where most of the population is on the outskirts, but the jobs are more likely to be in the centre of the city. So in the future, more people will have more reasons to travel to, from and through Brisbane. The issue of Brisbane's rail system as it stands today on the right-hand side there is that it's a single inner city rail line. It bypasses the CBD. This is the central business district and this sort of nose-shaped bit that sticks out. And the existing rail line sort of weaves around it. And every single train on the network passes these 4 same inner city stations. The system also has a bottleneck at the Merivale Bridge. It's only a 2-track bridge. Basically, this line across here goes off towards the western suburbs, and then this line here goes down to the south. There's a direction up to the port there, but also down towards the Gold Coast. So what does cross-border rail mean for the network? Shorter journey times from door to door, the capacity to increase train frequency, a second river crossing, reducing network frailty. At the moment, we lose that crossing, you basically lose the Brisbane rail network. New stations in more convenient locations, increased integration with bus services, and hopefully it'll make public transport more popular and future rail network extensions more viable. And it's a bit of that towards the end of what that means. So a quick summary of why crosser rail is needed. So we've got population growth of 1.5 million over the next 15 to 20 years. 80% of this is outside of the Brisbane local government area. 45% of jobs growth, meanwhile, will remain central. The road system alone will not be able to cope with that. Our rail network has a bottleneck that impacts the whole of South East Queensland, with just one rail crossing of the Brisbane River at Merivale Street Bridge. So the construction activities are due to be completed in 2024, at which time a detailed phase of testing and commissioning of the new signalling system will commence, and then following extensive safety assessment and accreditation, passenger services are expected to commence in 2025. If I've got this right, they show a nice, neat video. So over the last 2 years, you can understand a bit of preparatory work has gone on, and a fair bit of demolition. Just one I'd actually look out for in this short video is Roman Street, about halfway through. There's a hotel there that I think it was about 15 stories that gets raised to the ground, basically. So hopefully it works. So hopefully that gives you a quick flavour of how much we did just to get to the start line, to be honest. So that's a fair bit of demolition, and particularly some of those sites. Roman Street I'll come back to in the future, because I'll go through each of the sites one by one. So basically, 2021 was the year of tunnelling, and a fair bit of work went on. So what have I done wrong here? I have. Whoops, sorry. 2021 was the year of tunnelling. The image we're looking at here is east to west across Brisbane. On the north, on the right-hand side, is going up to the Sunshine Coast. On the south is up to the left-hand side, going down to the Gold Coast. You can see the Brisbane River is snakes through the city and gives Brisbane its name, of course. There are also some clear landmarks. The existing rail line runs along here, Uranus Station, across the Merivale Bridge, South Bank, and then weaves to the south side of the central before it goes off to this is Dutton Park, and I'll come to that later on, and off to the south. The stadium you can see in front of you is the Gabba. So though you've enjoyed cricket, you'll understand a bit about Wollongabba, what that's all about. The stadium over here is Suncorp Stadium, so those who enjoy rugby, that sort of thing. Just off the right there's the exhibition. I'll do a bit more detail of that later on. And then Roma Street is the one we sort of fear bit of demolition, slap bang in the middle. It's the current, it's not central to Brisbane, it's a central station, but it's one of the main stations in the centre of Brisbane. So hopefully this will show you what we've been up to in the last 2 years. Whoops, that wasn't meant to happen. What is that? I want to pause it and just talk through a few things. So at the end of last year, it's the end of 2020, these are the majors. This is the Roma Street site. So the red is a demolition. They took down the old transit centre, hotel, right along an interchange area, and can start to construct the tunnel cavern, ready to receive the TBMs later on. This is Albus Street. It's slap bang in the middle of the CBD, so it's a very constrained site. You'll see some photographs later on how constrained it is for us. Further to the south, this is Wollongabba, and these are the TBMs being placed. So we'll see what happens next in a second. And then right at the bottom is the southern portal out at Park Road or Dutton Park. I'll let it carry on playing. So watch the green lines now. You'll see the progress the tunneling machines, the TBM has made in the last 12 months. And the final bit I didn't mention here is the section from Wollongabba back to the southern portal was constructed here or excavated using road headers. And this area here is the northern portal, obviously where the TBM has finished their journey. Whoops, why does it keep doing that? Oops. Slight technical problem on there. So main yard. So this is a significant stabling yard upgrade. 60 turnouts and crossovers, about 22 kilometres of track works, 1.5 kilometres of internal access roadworks, the relocation of the QR buildings, 18 stabling roads in Main East Yard. On the next image, I'll be able to show you what Main East is and then Main North. 9 stabling roads in Main North Yard, and 3 footbridges. The other thing is this used to be where the main Queen's Rail maintenance teams are located, and part of those early works were to move these teams to alternative facilities in the Brisbane area, but obviously still close enough so they can do reactive maintenance activities. So this is the main north site. So it's a fair size. This was all yards before. It's been there for a very long time. This is Breakfast Creek alongside. You say creek, it's almost like a small river, really. And in the background there, you can just about see Main East Yard. This is basically where most of the stadium takes place today of the passenger trains. So in the middle of this is being built a brand new rail traffic crew building. That's currently, this photograph, I think is in the middle of last year, is the roof is complete, so it's got walls and a roof, and internal walls are about 30% complete, that building. There's also, down here, one of the sidings is a graffiti building, so the walls and the structural steel for that are completed. The first 4-5 track roads are completed and ballasted, and then they're currently earthing and bonding for the track roads from 6 to 11. Signalling is almost complete, and the CCTV installation is halfway through. The next photograph should show that in a bit more detail. So this is the sort of status of the same location today. It's starting to look a bit more like a rail yard than just a patch of dirt. The next location is exhibition. So a quick history lesson on this one. So the Royal, it's the RNA, the Royal National Agricultural and Industrial Association of Queensland, the RNA, that was established in 1875 with the governor, then day governor, as its president. So this location was chosen as the site for the first show, the Intercolonial Exhibition of 1876, and held in August of that year. And that's in the middle of winter for Brisbane. It was a public holiday, it declared, and about 15 to 17,000 people of the population of Brisbane those days was 21,000. So that's a huge attendance to what was then called the Ekka. So exhibition, and often to local Brisbaneites, the name has been replaced with the Ekka. So the Ekka show happens once a year in the middle of winter. It's usually for locals. It's usually particularly by the end of winter. You get the Ekka winds. It's like cool. There's a subtle change in the weather, and then it gets a bit warmer after that into September. So this is a nice view of the future Ekka station being constructed. So here you see the showgrounds. You see what it's all about. I think looking into the future, this will form part of the Olympics. This will be where the equestrian events are held. So large in this location. So the blade walls on the viaduct here are complete. The new deck, new viaduct is a little bit more progressed than I showed in this photograph, but it's about 80% of completion. And also, there's the long retaining wall being put in here. This track is going to slew across towards us in the picture. It's got to accommodate across the rail tracks as well as the existing rail line. Next up is the northern portal. So, and this really is like threading the eye of a needle. The northern portal appears to running up the page. What was Normanby sidings. So this used to be rail sidings only 5 years ago. So mass sidings, these are obviously all dismantled, taken away to facilitate the space for the tunnel to appear. So it's slotted between the inner city bypass on the left-hand side here, which is the main bypass from Brisbane City. The exhibition line is a rail line just alongside it, which is the freight bypass around the city. The lines that go for the city go through tunnels and won't accept freight traffic. So this is the way of getting freight traffic around the city. And things like dangerous goods requirements, which you normally don't want to send container traffic through the city. And on the other side, there's a holding road that was newly constructed to facilitate allow us to do the portal, and a large secondary school on the right-hand side. You can see it really is slotted quite tightly in there. This is showing the construction of the northern portal. In the background, you can just about see the TBM gantry, so it's being used for the TBM extraction. And also just a little bit further back is quite an old timber structure, a footbridge that goes across the tracks there. And that was part of the challenge actually to monitor that, to make sure it didn't get moved by the tunnel coming through underneath. So it's quite a lightweight structure. So the TBM extraction site, so you can see one of the big cutter heads on the right hand side here. So this is where the finish point of the TBMs. They're currently being dismantled and extracted. So TBM ELSA completed tunneling on the 25th of November last year. and TBM Merle completed tunnelling on the 17th of December last year. So the two TBMs, so Elsa and Merle, they weigh 1,350 tonnes each. They're about 165 metres long. Those cutting heads are 7.2 metres in diameter, and each one of those weighs 106 tonnes. The TBMs are crew of up to 15 people, and they were cut at a rate around about 20 to 30 metres per day. In total, those TBMs completed 3.6 kilometres and installed over 27,000 concrete segments, each weighing about 4.2 tonnes. And each ring is made by 6 concrete segments. So this is a recent tunnel. This was December, just shot as they'd taken the TBMs apart. That's just below the gantry. So some quick facts about the segments. So the segments were produced by a local company, Wagner's. So that was a $40 million contract. There were about 27,000 precast concrete segments. As I said, each one already weighs about 4.2 tonnes. And some quick maths you can figure out. So there's about 4,500 rings required to line the twin tunnels. So. The next site is Roma Street. So Roma Street, this is where in that quick video showed earlier, the old transit centre and hotel was completely demolished from here and just progressively taken down. Now, this is a busy part of the city, so that's no small fact to get through that, whilst still allowing sort of the business, the city to operate as normal. The station is also close to Suncorp Stadium, and this location will also be the location of the future Brisbane Arena. I think that's where the aquatic events are for the Olympics into the distance. So, well, it's only 10 years away now. So you can see the station box and the tunnels in the centre, the cabin, and then the services building off to the right-hand side for access in the future. I think that's where the ventilation is as well, from memory. So here's the station box of Roma Street. So excavation is complete now. So something like 38,000 meters cubed. The blinding's complete for the base. They put the installation, the drainage installation in, and also the lift overrun is what they're currently completing. On that services building I pointed it on, again, they finished the concrete blinding, put in some suspended deck and ground slabs, and I also installed the cavities drainage. So this is inside the Roma Street cabin. I was lucky enough to go in here actually when the both TBMs were going through. It was quite a view, quite a show, a very compact site, at the time well managed. So the concrete is ongoing in there, with about 75% complete. The drainage, the cabin is almost complete. As you see a little bit of water in the bottom. It was always wet when I went in. It was interesting inside. And the waterproofing is ongoing. So next location is Albus Street. As you can see, this is slap bang in the middle of the CBD. This will be the first CBD train station built in more than 120 years in Brisbane. And Albus Street Station would dramatically improve the connectivity to the southern part of the CBD. So a quick progress shot here, a bit overview actually. So the new underground station at Albus Street will become a main feeder point for this Queensland University of Technology. It's not far away. The campus is over to the left. There's the parliamentary precinct in the same location. The new Queen's Wharf development, an upgraded Eagle Street, which is down by the river, business district. The city's botanical gardens, which if you ever visit Brisbane, go and have a look. They're very nice, and also provides easy access to Elizabeth Street and Queen Street malls. Just as a fun fact, so all the streets in the Brisbane CBD are named after the royals. So those based in the northeast are named after female royals, and those facing perpendicular to that named after mail rollers. So if you're ever lost in the CBD, you can have a rough idea which way's which. As I said before, this sort of image is sort of just, it's so, there's 3 lots at Albus Street, and they're also literally just one on top of the other. It's quite difficult to even visualize what's going on there. And when I went there before, I think last September, all the material is lifted up and down this shaft. And I think we've got the point now they can they obviously got the tunnels right through now, but the excavation was all coming in and out of this shaft for this location. As I said, Albus Street is 3 lots. This is lot number 1. This is the station box. It's about 3/4 way complete. About 34,000 meters cubed materials being excavated. At its deepest point, it's 30 meters below ground. The spore removal is ongoing and the ground retention work is ongoing. This is lot 2 at Albert Street. So here, what they're currently doing is finishing the axis adits. So waterproofing and the permanent lining are complete. And they're doing cabin bench blasting at the moment. It commenced about a month ago, and the blasting is ongoing, and the spore removal is obviously still ongoing. Lot number 3 at Albert Street. So still, see, all very close together. These 3. They're you can throw a stone between them. The station box is half complete. It's quite small in comparison to some of the other sites. Only 10,000 meter cubed. And relatively shallow, only 8 meters below the deepest point. Again, spore's ongoing, going out, and the ground retention works are ongoing. The next site is probably one of the more famous sites, definitely from a world perspective. So Wollongabba, or the Gabba, as those who say cricket aficionados, or if you like Australian rules football, that's where the Brisbane Lions play as well. So the TBM tunnel fit-out works are commenced with the first sections of the invert slabs underway, and they've completed about 200 meters. So the tunnel is sort of this way. Sorry, runs that way. I lost my bearings myself. So again, this is a view of what Wollongabba will look like into the future. So the southern cabin is finishing, so akin to the back of house fitment works. The cabin on the northern cabin, which bearings is this one. The permanent line works continue, and the waterproofing and the steel fixing are underway. And the intent here is that basically in the future you can catch a train right to Wollongabba Station, appear on surface, and walk straight into the stadium. Again, I think that's one of the major venues for the Olympics, and maybe the central one. Still at the Gabba, this is the station box. So they've almost completed the back of house slabs. As I say, it's a very busy site. This is where both the TBMs launch from. So once the TBMs got the way they could get on, we're trying to build the actual station at Wollongabba. And then I think it's the final picture of the Gabba. So this is a quick view of the permanent lining works between the mine tunnels. This is not the TBM works, this is the road headers. This is about 3/4 completed on the down line and about 1/4 completed on the up line. So things are going quite well at the Gabba. The next site along the line is called Bogo Road, which in true Australian fashion is named after the road that led to it, but it became a boggy quagmire after rain. So in the background here, you'll be able to see the Bogo Road jail. That used to be Brisbane's jail. I think it shut down the back end of last century. You can see the beginning of this one. And Bogo Road is the access road into the jail. This is an eco-science precinct, and here you can see the Bogo Road station. You can also see in the background Park Road railway station, and also the busway. It's difficult to see on here, but this is often where University of Queensland, you want to catch a bus to University of Queensland, this is where you catch it from. It goes under the river, over the river, sorry. If you're a student, this is quite, you could say, quite busy here. Train to here, catch a bus straight to University of Queensland. So it's much busier than it sort of looks mid-construction. So this is a view, I'd say, Bogo Road. So the northern cavern is complete. They're now waterproofing it and finishing off the head wall. 9 out of 10 pours the concrete of the permanent line is complete. And the team are now getting stuck into permanent works, long-term works. Still at Bogo Road. So some high-level facts there. So you say the station box is finished. 140,000 meters cubed of material has been taken away. So that northern tunnel cavern, the bulk excavations are complete. Again, another 26,000 meter cubed of material. The northern cavern, the ventilation has been relocated. So here, so they can carry on doing the waterproofing. And the mine tunnels, this is where the mine tunnel came through from Wollongabba. It's been completed with the head wall reinforcement going on. As I say, and you can see there the formwork, the reinforcement for the permanent works is starting to be put up and be poured soon. I'll say one thing, if you like concrete, this is a project for somebody. So there's plenty and plenty of concrete. So this is the mine tunnel breakthrough back in 24th September last year. And this is the one where the head wall reinforcement is ongoing. And as I said before, this is road headers, not TBM. And a bit of a sort, not quite final, but a much better view of what Bogo Road looks like today, with the cavern lining on the background there. So it's quite an interesting site, Bogo Road. The next one is, so it's very difficult to show on this picture. So the Bogo Road station is just around the corner there. So this is Bogo Road Bridge, so a pedestrian and cycle bridge. It's sort of a missing link in a way. It connects the Cross Rail Bogo Road station with behind over the right hand shoulder of the photography, as you can imagine, is the Princess Alexandra Hospital. And also over here is the South East Busway, and also Park Road Station just in the distance I mentioned earlier. So this new bridge will span over the rail corridor. It's quite high, from Pugh Street to the Princess Alexandra Hospital, and it's a shared user path. As I said, the bridge resolves a missing link for connectivity in the area. So some big facts about the bridge. 480 meters long, 45 meter high cable stand spire. The main deck is 20 meters above the ground. Separate lanes for pedestrians and cyclists. Lifts and stairs on both sides for accessibility. A great separation at Pugh Street. 1 in 21 gradients, so suitable for pedestrians and cyclists. And then along the way, seating, rest stops, shade, which is quite important in this state, and planting, and obviously security mesh for your normal considerations above an active rail corridor. Next one is the Tunnel Portal South. Now this was my Christmas. Basically, we took a closure to do the alignment of this from about the 18th of December right through to the 4th of January. So it's a huge amount of focus over Christmas. It included not only moving the railway lines, but also doing the signalling alterations. For those who've been involved in signalling, that's always a challenge. So, and if you've got the eyes of a hawk, you'll spot that some of these lines are actually dual gauge, both 1067 and 1432 mil. So The Port of Brisbane is off to the right here, and this you would see coal traffic that comes to the Westmoreland system, inland Queensland, and off to the Port of Brisbane. And also it's the rail line that connects basically to New South Wales. And if you were catching an XPT train up here and into Rome Street, ultimately this is the path it would take. And again, that's a standard gauge train, so different track gauge. So Southern Portal, we're at about 3/4 of the piles have been installed. The capping beam pours ongoing. Again, I think they've done something like 700 meters worth of capping beams. There's micro tunneling going on, sewer and stormwater. Winds are our 5th and 6th drives, and we're almost there, 80% complete. And as I said already, a significant amount of realignment work that was commissioned over Christmas, track realignment. So a quick image here, this is just before Christmas, this is December 21. So this is the piles have been installed. So there's capping beams ongoing above. So I see that'll finish off in the next few months. This, I believe, is here where the micro tunneling goes. Oh, sorry, no, it does say right above it. The southern air decline, so this is where it does enter into the portal. So. And as I said, whilst it says stop, that's not what we did over Christmas. It was a huge amount of realignment work. All disciplines were involved over the Christmas period. New lines built, old lines taken up, plain lining of crossovers, complete signalling alterations. Bear in mind the signalling there is not ETCS, it's our existing traditional system relay based. So bit of an upgrade, update, should we say, to enable the tunnel to come out in between, right in the middle of what was, it used to be a mechanized maintenance depot, so where we used to feed the servicing machines or tampers, regulators, those sort of things. So the next one should be a quick montage of everything I've gone through, but obviously in a nice time lapse. So let's see how this goes.
Crossover Rail's first mega machine is about to disappear under Brisbane. 165 metres long and weighing 1,300 tonnes, 42 metres below the Brisbane River, with a crew of up to 15 people on board. Machines will cut through 20 to 30 metres of hard rock every day. Transported in parts from Sydney, the machine was carefully fitted together on site, now ready to forge ahead. Named after trailblazing Queensland engineer Elsa Shepherd.
To really understand the scale of a project like Crossriver Rail, you need to go deep underground and get a little dirty.
27,000 full-time concrete segments will be fitted. The tunnel boring machines will cut through 315,000 cubic metres of hard Brisbane rock. The twin tunnels will measure 5.9 metres inland.
Today, the hustle and bustle here looks very different. The sight of trains and railway tracks are a distant memory, but not for much longer.
We're going to take you on a journey now never before seen in Queensland. The most ambitious infrastructure project in decades has marked another milestone, 50 metres beneath the Brisbane River.
Tunnel boring machine Merle, we're currently 42 metres below the surface of the Brisbane River.
Twin tunnels have been carved from Wollongabba to Uranus Street.
Don't forget 9 minutes, we deliver you a piece of history. For the first time ever, Wollongabba and Uranus Street are now connected underground.
Digging deep underground beneath the heart of Brisbane. Right now, our city's new underground is taking shape at King George Square. The Annie Fuller has it first.
Out of sight beneath everyone's feet, walking here at King George Square, two tunnel boring machines are digging deep, working in overdrive to carve out Brisbane's new underground. Halfway through their nearly 4-kilometre journey, they'll move to the brand new underground station at Bogo Street.
Tonight, 7 News can give you an exclusive look as the final concrete blocks for the Cross River Rail's tunnels rock off the production line.
Weighing 4.2 tonnes, it's the last time these large blocks will see sunlight. 130 staff at Waggers have moulded, cast and shaped more than 27,000 copper segments.
A major milestone in the city's Cross River Rail project. Tonight, 9 News will show you the breakthrough moments in underground tunnels from Wollongabba to Bogo Road. History has been made in Brisbane's city centre. Tunnelling machines hit a major milestone.
The second of 2 tunnel boring machines breaking through the rock here behind me.
Another milestone on the Cross River Rail's trek across and under the city.
Cross River Rail has hit another milestone, a tunnel boring machine opening up a second line into the new underground Uranus Station. But getting this far hasn't been easy. Engineers facing difficult conditions below Brisbane.
There was a breakthrough. The Cross River Rail's first boring machine has crashed through its final rock wall, marking a major milestone.
Today, LC saw daylight after 294 days in the dark. Cross River Rail has reached another milestone, its year of tunnelling coming to an end. The final machine broke through today, reaching a pivotal point in Brisbane's Olympic preparation. Another breakthrough for Cross River Rail, ready for Queensland's golden age, which is now well and truly on track.
I'll quickly mention that all of those defined videos are put together by the media team in the delivery authority, and if you go on YouTube and Google Cross River Rail, you'll come along with them. There's a huge selection of bits and pieces if you're interested in some of the finer detail. So, right, carrying on. So the next part, so working south, we haven't stopped yet. We've only just done the tunnels. So Fairfield to Salisbury, so F2S. We're rebuilding the 6 stations from Fairfield to Salisbury on Brisbane's south side. So this is in readiness for Cross River Rail, is just off to the north, or the actual tunnel is off to the north. And this is also part of the Cross River Rail project. This is a part that's been delivered by the RIS team, the Rail Integration Systems. So the new stations will have passenger lifts, designated accessibility parking bays, new station building facilities, pedestrian overpasses, kiss and ride drop-off facilities, and bike enclosure. The Cross River Rail project also was deliver a 3rd platform on each of those stations and raise platform height so you can reduce the vertical step gap between a platform and a train. The delivery is going to be, as I say, by the Unity Alliance, which is the major works contractor for the Rail Integration Systems project. So at the moment, these stations are being rebuilt on a rolling program of works. So this is to enable safe construction like brownfield rail environment and require extended closure of each of the stations in order to deliver improved long-term passenger benefits. So those are the 6 stations F2S being rebuilt. So Fairfield, Yeronga, Yeronpilly, Maruka, Rockley, and Salisbury. You'll get used to the name as well. It's like Welsh place names, you get used to them quite quickly. So the Yeronga station is currently the one that's been a lot of work being done in the last few months. It's currently closed for 6 months. The works at Yeronga include raising platforms 1 and 2, moving the in-ground services, retaining walls, shade canopies, and other station amenities. And to help the customers in that, there's also been a temporary bus service installed at Yeronga to allow those people impacted by the Cross River Rail project. Because you can imagine, there's a huge amount of work going on, and there's a lot of consideration of our customers. So this is the Yeronga station progress. So there's plenty going on there. They've almost completed all the screw poles. I mean, they put in almost just over 250 screw poles, and they've almost completed all their ball piles as well. Almost 1,000 meters squared of platform slab done on platform 1, and they've done half, about 600 meters squared of slab for platforms 2 and 3. Next along, it's not easy to see on the line, to say it wasn't part of the original project got added to. So Clapham Yard, there's a new yard being built for the rail services on the southern side. So the bulk earthworks are ongoing, as is the drainage installation. These big retaining walls are being constructed, and relocation of 11 kV power supply. In the background there, you see that there's Maori Foods, that's like a flour provider, bread. So it's important to keep access to obviously local businesses at the same time as that's ongoing. Next one is ETCS. So this is at Redbank. I'd say depot, the facility at Redbank. So it's a train maintenance facility. This is one of the units, 276. I think the other one's 261 behind it. That are the first trains to be fitted with ETCS in the Queen's Rail network. So the pre-validation testing has been done in integration lab for this for these works, and also there's a railway line to the north of Brisbane, Sandgate line, that's been fitted with radio masts and antennas. And on some of the stations there, North Boondall and Nudgee sites, and we've recently had a successful powering up of that unit. So you can imagine it's completely dismantled on the inside, all the fittings taken out, and fitted with ETCS. And they also built a small test track outside to do the low-speed testing at Redbank. And then quite a recent achievement was following those compliance checks. It received this interim certificate of engineering compliance, and that was great for then get it ready onto the Shorncliffe line to do its testing, so it's in-field testing of the unit. Because as I say, ETCS is new to Queens and Rail, so it's a new thing. Further south, it doesn't stop this project, just keeps going. So there's 3 new Gold Coast stations. So Gold Coast is probably one that's pretty famous for beaches. So Pimpama, Hope Island, and Merrimack was announced in September 29 and 19. So those are going to be delivered as part of the Crossrail Road project. So boosting capacity on the Gold Coast line. And these new stations are scheduled to be in operation in time for the first Crossrail rail services to the Gold Coast. So I say it's huge population growth down toward the Gold Coast. So again, between 50,000 next 25 years. And it's obviously a big commitment, 120 million commitment from the state government. This shows Hope Island, which is what I'd say the artist's impressions, one of the new Gold Coast stations. And the reality, the first station that's been worked on is Pimpama. So the early works are continuing. It's currently the site establishment and works to commence late this year, or let's say starting this year. We're in the stage of design progression, environmental studies and approvals, and then the procurement strategy is being finalised. So that's a bang up to date in that one. Last couple of slides. So the Plus precinct delivery. So both at Albus Street and Roma Street Station. So Crossrail is not just a rail project. So we're trying to transform the whole of the public transport network and create new public spaces. And these are some of the community precincts and opportunities for urban renewal and economic development and investment. So there was a strategy, the Crossrail Rail Precincts Delivery Strategy, that was released late 2019 and was a blueprint then to shape future development in and around Crossrail's 4 underground stations. And then Crossrail Rail is working in partnership with Queensland Treasury, the Economic Development Queensland, and Queensland Investment Corporation to master plan who else might build on its developable land at each station location. So that's an ongoing development opportunity. And finally, getting Olympics ready already. So the lady in the picture there is Anastasia Palaszczuk. She's the Premier of Queensland. So CrossFit and statement there about showing that we are ready for the 2032, or sorry, we have plans ready for 2032 Olympics. So the Brisbane 2032 Olympics and Paralympic Games, Crossrail has played a key role in helping secure the 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games. The transport connectivity enabled by Crossrail Rail has unlocked key infrastructure opportunities for Olympic legacy facilities, which will be enjoyed by Queenslanders for decades to come. In 2032, patrons will use a range of transport options, including public transport, shuttle services, on-demand services, private vehicles, and active transport to get to and from Olympic venues such as the Gabba. So to give you an idea, the addition of the Crossrail Rail new high-capacity Wollongabba station will make passenger rail the heavy lifter to efficiently and safely move high volumes of patrons to and from the stadium and seamlessly connect with other venues. So the connectivity provided by Crossrail Rail means that the people will be able to attend an event at the Gabba and then take a 3-minute journey to New Albus Street station in the heart of CBD, which would just be a few minutes walk away from future precinct developments at both Queen's Wharf and or Eagle Street. I did take another 4-minute journey to Uranus Station to watch the swimming and the water polo events at the newly constructed Brisbane Arena, or head to Suncorp Stadium for the rugby and football finals. And finally, you could take a 9-minute journey back to where I said right at the beginning, to Exhibition Station to watch the question events on RNA showgrounds in Victoria Park. So the whole idea to say Crossrail Rail, it does completely dovetail into what the state put forward for the 2032 Olympics bid, and really does facilitate that bid in the future. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that. So that's the final slide. Thank you very much. I saw some of the questions coming in. One point it was starting to distract me a bit, which is interesting. I'm looking forward to having a chance to answer them now, actually. So.
Right, right, Alex. Right, thank you very much for that. Right, Paul Ebbett asks about the track gauge. So you mentioned, I think, that there's you've got 2 track gauges in Brisbane, but your main one's 3'6", I think, isn't it?
Yeah, 1067. So I've gotten used to saying 1067 is normal and 1432 is wide. So yeah, so the predominant track gauge in Queensland is 1067. The tunnel is 1067. But as I said before, on the southern portal is where the lines weave both towards the Port of Brisbane and on towards Roma Street, and they're dual gauge, or some of those lines are dual gauge anyway. So.
Okay, right. Ravi Teja Korala, I hope I pronounced that right, says what kind of TBM was used. That also fits in, I think, quite well with a question from Paul Ebbert, which is, can you have a bit of a summary about the ground conditions? And I think the two probably go together quite well. So.
I don't profess to be an expert on the actual type of TBM. I believe, the gentleman I work with, Tai Long, has done a complete YouTube video on exactly where it's come from. So again, go back to the Crossrail Rail and you get the detailed answer. My understanding, it was reused from another project in Australia, which is fantastic. I think it was basically refurbished and then delivered back to Queensland. I think it was on the Sydney Metro. And then refurbished by the German company that built it, and then back to Brisbane. As far as ground conditions, that's interesting. So Brisbane, there's obviously a fair bit of sand type stones, but Brisbane has this, I should have looked at before, Brisbane, it's called Tuff. Brisbane Tuff is like a very hard rock. So there's geology, and it does change along the route of the tunnel. I know from previous experience of working on the existing smaller tunnels in the suburban area, right in the city, it changes. So the geology actually changes from one type, sort of relatively easy going. And it was just towards the end of the tunnel activity. So just as you get towards the finish line, you hit the really hard stuff. So hopefully that answers your question there, Paul, as I say, it's soft and then going to hard. But for the detail of the actual machines here, I don't profess to be an expert on the actual tunnel machines, but if you have a look on the Crossrail Rail YouTube page, you'll get all the detail from a lovely guy called Tai Long. So.
Okay, right, Paul Ebbett again says, what's the track geometry like in the tunnels? What are the minimum radii and the maximum gradients?
I think maximum gradient from memory is 3%. Sharpest radii would be around about 300 meters. Generally, obviously, due to accessibility, so to try and get the platform gap as tight as possible, all the stations are straight and level inside the tunnel. So each of the stations that are underground are straight and level.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward, that one.
Yeah. Jacob Fay says, what sleepers are you using?
Oh, that's a good question. Right. There's a secondary question here. Does he mean inside the tunnel? Does he mean on the surface? Because I noticed that picture came up as I had a picture of a sleeper on the surface, which I think, look, I'll go through all of them. So Queensland generally uses their own designs of medium depth concrete or full depth concrete sleepers. They're a bit like a Shaw F40 for those who speak, with an E-clip housing. So that's the more the yards, sidings, then there is a low depth concrete version, but I don't think they're using that in location. Quite often you'll see the turnouts are Queens and Rail designs, again on concrete bearers, generally pandrel fastenings, so E-clip. In the tunnel, I believe there's 3 types. Suncorp boot, which I think is similar to the Channel Tunnel, but it's
they did use a booted sleeper, twin block on, with a rubber boot.
Yeah, that's the one. I think the last time we hit the split into 3 different types. So there's different types of noise attenuation. I can never say the word attenuation to deal with noise, different curves. Either the Delcor egg, which is a pandrel fastening, or Voslo fastenings on the Suncorp boots. So inside. So yeah, good question, that one, because the answer is lots.
Paul Ebbett again says, what is the tunnel diameter and is there provision for emergency access egress walkways?
Yes, so I think the overall tunnel diameter, I think it said in the presentation, was 7.2 meters. That's the actual bore. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what the internal one is, actually. I should know that one. I must learn that one. Yes, there are walkways put alongside it. I recently had to explain how the lighting system works, and there are cross passages between the 2 tunnels. So the answer is yes, there is a walkway inside it, and there are cross passages between the 2 tunnels.
Right, so you presumably use those for maintenance as well, will you, for your maintenance access to the tunnels?
There's a huge, obviously, huge amount of work going on by the RIS team about the integration, about how you do the whole processes and procedures, about doing access and maintenance for all the different facilities, all the different disciplines. So yeah.
All right. Okay.
I think the main one's actually that one of Road Street.
Yeah. James Hepburn says, what is the inspection regime for the Freeway and the tunnels?
I don't think that's actually been determined yet, James, but you know well that's that idea close to my heart. Normal Queens and Rail inspection is 96 hours, but it has been pushed out to a week. And the reality is Queens and Rail for quite some time have been looking at other rails around the world, including Netrail, to see, well, okay, how do you do a more automated inspection? And given the fact that, look, this is going to be completely slab track, one into the other. So yeah, I'll be surprised if it's any more frequently than weekly, but it's probably a lot less frequent than that. But say that's still a process being determined. At the end of the day, for Crossrail, the designer defines the actual inspection frequency, which gets handed over to Queens Rail at the end. So it's a PPP.
Right. Okay. Ravi again says, is it going to be an overhead line system or 3rd rail in the tunnels?
Overhead, it's a rigid conductor bar. So it's an overhead system, not wired, not continually, but a rigid conductor bar system. I believe the one they like to use is already Queens Rail's tested a similar system inside Central Station. I see it on the way home on my train. I believe that'll be the same range, probably similar to it inside the tunnel. So
I think they're proving quite popular in tunnels. We've got it in the 7 tunnel now, but it hasn't been entirely successful there. So Alan Wilkins says, what are the rolling stock provisions? New vehicles, configurations of units, who's making them? Where the maintenance facilities are going to be, and are they new or enhanced?
Right. So Crossrail is at the moment wholly what Queensland calls NGRs, which is new generation rolling stock. So I believe that's a Bombardier design that was introduced into Queensland a few years back, probably 7 or 8 years. I might have got that wrong. So Bombardier are responsible for the maintenance of that fleet, and it goes back. Pardon me. They've got a purpose-built facility at Woolkaraka, so for the maintenance. But I believe, yeah, the Crossrail tunnel will be a NGR tunnel only. The way it's sort of to do with the sectorised model, so which trains go into the tunnel, which don't, which stay on the surface. So.
Okay. So Andrew Wilson says, thank you for your talk. The presentation demonstrates the civil engineering integration aplenty. System integration should, in big capital letters, be a doddle. So any comments, or could I ask for another presentation when we get that far? So.
I can think of someone who's far better placed than me to present on that. They won't thank me for volunteering, so look, I think that's been accepted. We know, we've been watching other projects around the world, and we appreciate the fact that integration.
Not least Crossrail, I imagine, yeah.
It's a fair point. So yes, we recognise, and I think that's why one of the reasons why RIS is set up as the integrator. So there's a lot of effort going in that space to make sure that the asset, when it's handed over the end, it all works. Things like ventilation fans and alarm systems and sprinklers and things like that. So.
Okay.
Good question,
Right. So I've a comment from me. Wouldn't it be useful if Christmas was in the middle of the summer here as well? But the idea of Christmas working in blue skies and lovely weather just seems complete anathema. We're going right back to the beginning. You were talking about the whole concept of this railway, with the idea that for this huge, 2 million more residents in Queensland, but 45% of the jobs will be commuting into the city to do that. In a post-COVID world, I mean, in Britain, we've now reached the position that the one thing that hasn't really recovered is commuting. Lots of people have traded the daily commute for perhaps once a week or twice a week and working from home. So do you think that will actually happen in Australia as well? I mean, how has home working, worked there?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So it's more a COVID question, but it's a good one. I can get personal. So today was the first week that we've gone back. So say with Queensland has been probably one of the more strict states as far as lockdowns are concerned and managing COVID. And yeah, we've had a fair period since COVID, all over Christmas of working from home. And today was the first week we went back to, in the office I work, to at least 50% working from the office. But two things: A, looking out the window of the office, you're starting to see it get back to, let's say not to normal, but back to being a lot more people on the streets. And this is slap bang in the middle of CBD, this is Central Station. And the train station I normally catch the train from and go and park at, it's not back to where you can't get a parking space anymore, because that's what it used to be like. But it is, how can I say, the parking spaces are starting to fill up. So look, I think, as I say, personal opinion, this one, you're right. There'll be people who have options now to work from home. I didn't have this facility, it's obviously 2-3 years ago. But I think the population growth is such that that single Merivale bridge was always going to be constrained no matter what. So I think COVID's added to it, but the population doesn't stop growing. What the weird things happen for Queensland, just to say, is a lot of more people have moved here now because of what happened because of COVID. Because so sports still carried on in Queensland, and there are a lot of people moving up from New South Wales and Victoria. So house prices going through the roof here.
Right. Okay. Right. There's no more questions coming now, so I would like to ask Ravi Teja Kerala to propose a vote of thanks, please. I think this is the first time we've had a vote of thanks from another country on the other side of the world. Over to you.
Thanks, Andy. Hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Andy. Good afternoon and good evening to everyone here. The seminar has been a great success so far, as it imparted a lot of knowledge to all the people. I, on behalf of PWI Institute, want to deliver this vote of thanks for the speech. I'm really thankful for the organizers for giving me a chance to deliver this speech. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank our speaker, Mr. Alex Pugh, for delivering this wonderful talk. So you truly make this day full of knowledge for us. The seminar is articulated very well and gave us very useful insights of this project. The fun facts that you shared added a glory to the seminar. and thanks for handling our questions and giving all the details we are looking for. This seminar is truly worth. A big thanks to PWI organizers who really work hard for getting this seminar happen, and also thanks for all the members and the newcomers who are here for attending the seminar and paying utmost attention. I would end my speech here. Thank you and stay safe.
Right, if you unmute yourselves. Thanks. Thank you very much, Ravi. Thanks, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alex.
Right. So I'm going to stay on for a few minutes if anybody wants to stay on for a quick chat. But if not, the meeting's now closed. Our next meeting, I must remind you, our next meeting is 14th of March, which is about HS2 track form selection with Georgia Nicola, who's the head of track engineering for HS2. Okay, thank you.
Okay.